Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Journey to Purpose. Today, I have the wonderful Deb Krier. She is an integrated cancer coach. Deb, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
You so much, Philippa. I am so honored to be on your program.
Thank you. And first question I ask everyone, where in the world are you?
So I love it when I get this because I tell people I'm from Colorado, but I live in Atlanta.
Nice. Why did you? So I've never been to Colorado. It's on my list. I worked for a company called Lockheed Martin, who
Oh yeah.
sure you're aware of. And I never managed to wangle a trip to the Denver office. But everyone tells me it was beautiful. So it's on my list of places to go.
It should be on your list and go up in the mountains while you're there.
Absolutely. But Atlanta, is that Atlanta, Georgia?
Atlanta, Georgia. Yep.
So I worked in Augusta with the army
Okay.
in Georgia.
So not far.
Had a great time. Yeah, but never made it to Atlanta. So you've been to all the places I haven't been to, but I'd like to
Okay, come visit. We'll take you on a tour.
next time. Sounds like a plan. Perfect. Right. So you've got quite the story, obviously, with your own personal situation, what you do now. So really, it's up to you. How did you get into integrated cancer coaching, or what does that even mean as a starting point?
It's actually fairly new, but it is a type of health coach. So I am a cancer survivor of three different types of cancers, right? And my business coach for several years had been saying they do need to turn this into coaching, help people. And I was like, no, I have my own marketing. I didn't want to be cancer girl, all those things. And then it finally struck me that yes, I wanted to help others. And so that was what we started this program.
Amazing. Three different cancers.
Three.
That's a lot. I mean, one's a lot for anybody, but three. So what was on what sort of time period has this happened?
I will coming up on my 10-year mark for the first diagnosis, which is a good thing. 10 years are kind of those big milestones. So I was initially diagnosed in 2015 with basal cell with stage breast cancer, which was, and we're not going to worry about it. Just, we're getting oncologist. A couple biopsy, those came back negative. And then we did some detailed testing. And that testing showed that not only did I have cancer, but it had spread. And so all of a sudden I had a stage 3 diagnosis. Had to get the oncologist, did all that good stuff. Had my first round of chemo. Now I chose to do the very traditional route. I was going to do chemo, then I was going to do surgery, then I was going to do radiation. Each person has to pick what works for them. But my first chemo almost did me in. I was within hours of dying. Doctors were kind of voting on how fast I would vote. And obviously I was like, don't like to vote. But in that process, I was in the hospital for about 7 weeks with just my first chemo treatment. It obviously changed things a lot. For example, I could not use more chemo. But in that, they also said, you've got stage 4 cancer, which stage 4 is not considered curable. Now I can go away and never come back. But my diagnosis is stage 4, triple positive metastatic breast cancer. Blah. I had surgery, so I chose to go ahead with that. I did a double mastectomy, chose not to do reconstructive surgery. Again, personal choice for whoever, but I told people I'm old. I don't need those. And they sailed through radiation. I had no problem having radiation treatments. And then just kind of went along way I developed basal cell carcinoma, which that always sounded really bad. That's your basic brain cancer. I didn't even spit when they took it off. It kind of burned it, and that was that. Now I do get to go to the dermatologist every 6 months. And then it's been about 2 hours ago. We were looking for something else. Actually, it was just a follow-up with the original breast cancer. And they said, that's fine, but you've got something in your thyroid. And turned out that was thyroid cancer, and they removed my anticoagulant. But we caught it so fast that it had not in any way spread.
Amazing. Say amazing.
I just have scars.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, you really commit to this. So yeah, really. First of all, I guess so. My mum had cancer, so I'm quite familiar with some of the terminology. But and she survived, an attention seeker, whatever.
I love it.
For her, it's quite interesting. She'd had back pain for years, And I think she was about 63, 64 at the time. And she woke up one day and she couldn't walk.
Ooh.
And what had happened, there was actually a tumor on her spine that had grown and it compressed
And it just
spinal nerve.
right.
So they took her off to hospital and she had radiation and chemo, but we discovered it's actually stage 4 at that point because it spread so badly. Now she did recover. She's 75 now and going strong, which is fantastic. Also, she's very stubborn. So
It just wasn't her time.
no, but it is a scary thing, isn't it? Because I mean, I think at the time she went in, there were two other women with kind of similar kind of diagnosis, and actually they both died. And so you just don't know. Now, for her at the time, she was still a teacher. She retired from teaching. I think she was 68 or 67 when she retired because she loved it. It was all her life. But she got diagnosed in the April, and then she said, "I'm going back to school in September." And she did.
Good for her.
Yeah, again, super stubborn, my mum. I do believe quite strongly in that mindset makes a difference.
It's 100% of it. Years ago in my career, I worked for the American Cancer Society, and I also worked for an oncologist. So I know just enough to be dangerous, right? But the oncologist, he was amazing. I remember he would tell patients, now I was office staff, I'm not medic my trade, but he would tell people 99% of this is in your head. Think you're going to survive, you will survive. So if you think you're going to die.
Yeah.
Now, that might have only been a couple of days or a year, right? But it was, how are you going to live during that time frame?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I've heard, I think I've heard all the spectrum from doctors in terms of the ones who just want to be realistic and give you like the really negative view, which I don't always think is helpful, versus the ones who go positively. Now, like you, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't, give that kind of evidence based on disproportionate population had a good mindset and they survived. But I think there's something in it, regardless of the end state of how you live while you're going through this process. And I think that for me, with seeing how my mum did stuff, I mean, again, she was a woman who never got sick. Like she'd get a cold one day every 5 years. She was that kind of annoying, helpless ourselves. Yeah, mother-in-law. Yeah, and also, but it would literally be a cold for one day as well. Like it would be over the next day because it was too afraid to stay any longer in her body. Probably
Golfed at everybody else, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't surprise me that she had that mindset of I'm gonna go back to school in September. But also, what's interesting with her is she craved good stuff for her body. Like she went. I mean, she's again not a bad eater anyway, but she had no interest in chocolate. She had no interest in any sugary food. She wanted fruit and veg and all the good stuff that you think you should have. And so she listened to her body. So again, I'm always fascinated with people's journeys around cancer when you survived it going. What were you aware of that you were going to be like? You sound like the chemo was horrendous for you.
Oh, it was.
And how did you process that?
It was, again, I was special, right? The complication that I got happens less than 1% of the time, right? And they don't know why. When at that point, I was the only person that survived. My doctor had someone who died, the same thing. He knew, oh my gosh, this is what we've got to do. But it really was, I mean, I was doing what I thought are the right things. And to be honest, I do the same. I would do the same course of treatment. I did go to and got a second opinion, and she said you're prescribed the same thing. But again, it has to be what works for you. I people who don't do the and I said my little stress right? And when they know I'm figuring out how to add things in, like Richmond, all of those things need to be added to this.
So you got through the very horrific first round of it, and then hopefully the slightly less horrific second and third round. Did you make any changes from that first, second, or third time that you carry with you now in terms of how you live?
So we did not repeat the original course, like treatment. Partially because we didn't know which one it was that my body did. Did try it, a totally different protocol. Made it through 3 rounds before my body said that same thing. So I can probably never have chemo again. Even though there's a multitude of different drugs, it definitely made me appreciate life. And to get rid of the toxic, negative people, even though they knew well. I love the people. Oh, my grandmother had breast cancer. Oh, she died. That's not helpful.
Not now.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were people who I thought would be right by my side, off the face of the earth. Could not deal with me. Other people who I didn't even think knew I existed have been there every step. I'm actually still in active sleep pension. I go in every 3 weeks. And so, but yeah, it really has been an incredible journey. I think what I learned most is you got to get around you who is best going to support you.
I think that, I mean, that's so true about life in general. And I think it often takes us like a significant life event
Right.
to realize people we surround ourselves with are so crucial to our success or our failure. But it oughtn't to be this event. I went to a funeral a few months ago of a work colleague, and it was a very sad event because obviously he was only 56 when he passed. But it was a great turnout of people. And I kind of was saying to one of my friends, I was like, it's a shame we only come together for like deaths. Now, like, surely we should have like a life party for no reason, just celebrate being alive. It doesn't have to be a birthday even, just like, I'm feeling good today. Let's have a let's all hang out together. But it does often seem to be these traumatic life events when we suddenly realize how important it is to have the right people around us, no matter what the situation. And sometimes it's almost too late to have that realization.
Right. And we need to get those people. My mother was big on saying, you did not say thank you. Okay. I help people think just smiling at somebody. I might be the only person that day that smiled at. One of the things I do is I tell people I love them. Now it's got to be a real thing, right? Not just dude, love you. Yeah. But until then, I was very reserved. You don't say things like that because my parent Mike didn't. I honestly don't remember my father ever saying it. Now you knew he was an only child, his 11th daughter, all of that. But yeah, it was just not something we said. And so I think we tell people that we appreciate them.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that brings us, I guess, on nicely to, so what is the integrated cancer coach? What do you do for people with that?
So we just launched like 2 or 3 days ago. But, the website, the ink is still not dry out. Imagine this is hot press. And about tying all of it together, that now my primary people I want to work with are business executives, business owners who are extremely busy, as it is. And then they're told, hey, you have cancer. And they're like, I'm sorry. No, I can't deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. But they have to. So how do we get them through that? And some of it is very focused. Like, do you have a business continuity plan? Who is this, the person that could also sign checks? Things like that. Then it's also offline, flying, meditation, time management, grief management. Because this is very much, you may have seen it with your mom. We go through a grieving process, and we always, it's always there because there's that fear that's always there. But it's also about being happy, exactly what you need before, right? So I like a finance coach.
That's awesome. Yeah, made me smile there. You just remind me of another guest I've had on. I don't know if her episode has gone out yet. Well, it will have by the time this one goes out. But she basically is like a funeral planner for that very reason of like when you have time and you have control. Last summer, I made my parents get all their executive it's house of attorney in order. Not because there's anything wrong with them, but because like they're at an age where things could go wrong, and they've been meaning to do it. And thankfully we did. My dad got encephalitis.
Oh no!
Months ago, so he's recovered, but he won't quite go back to how he was pre-encephalitis because of how it destroys the brain. But had we not all done that last summer, it would have made things a lot harder these last couple of months because I had power of attorney, my mum had power of attorney, so maybe we could share the load. But again, I'm glad we did it when there was no pressure to do it. I think understanding, like we were saying with the integrated cancer care, understanding the business planning is going to take care of it. Even that, again, exactly. It's always. Well, not always. It's often these traumatic events that make us do it. And of course, at that point, you're already under a lot of stress. There's already lots of things going on, and you don't necessarily have the headspace to think about it. I know for the last 2 months, I managed to basically do some podcast recordings, do the minimal amount of work I did to keep everything afloat. And I was in hospital the other day writing to my mum because of how bad my dad was. And if we hadn't done all that stuff last few months, it would have been overwhelming because it was hard enough. Just with the two of us seeing what it was. You just don't appreciate that.
it's also, as you were saying, it's easier for the other people. When I was first diagnosed, I did the basic do it yourself on the internet will, right? And it was my husband gets everything. I mean, it was, but I also had to do the medical power of referral, which was very important because I was critically ill. I was catastrophic in ICU. And so my husband, I needed to be able to legally say, here's what's going on. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, and we don't like, I think about all of this. Now I tell people, if you have kids, you got to,
Yeah.
but, I also come from, we were laughing about our mothers. Mine was, I type A master planner, right? And so she passed away. It's been about a year ago. She had her funeral all written out. These are the songs I want. I want all of that. And so it seemed a little morbid, but I knew exactly what she wanted because I didn't want to be haunted.
But like I say, also it takes the pressure off you.
Right.
And when you're going through that grieving process, it's hard to keep a clear head sometimes. And even, my dad says the road to hell paved with good intention, but I never understood that till I became an adult. Like we think we're helping, but actually sometimes we're not. So having all this stuff laid out in front of us ahead of time when we don't have to worry about the headspace to think about it, it's a massive differentiator for you.
Mine was easy because it's just my husband. We didn't have kids. Now, he did have to deal with my mother thinking she was in charge. And he and the medical team had to have a loans behind him. Yeah, it's critical if there's more than one person, is in charge. So, like with my mother, we had on her medical power of attorney. Now I have an older to know. So I was number one, and my husband was number two. Her sister was actually her primary caregiver and a retired nurse practitioner. And so I told Mom, I said, it's got to be on me. She's going to be the one. And I said, and I turned to her anyway. And when my mother passed, typical, our sister, she was fine one day and gone by noon the next day. Mm-hmm. And I was on the plane to Las Vegas. Of all. It happens. I was like, but my aunt was empowered to make those decisions. And she and I told her, I trust you. You need to make the decision you think needs to be made. No, you can't get a hold of me. And she did.
No, amazing. Going back to your coaching then, so looking at the businesses, are you looking at it from the point of view of in case you get sick, be it cancer or something else? You have how you've got diagnosed. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Right. So essentially, I'm guessing you get a diagnosis, it's very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What would be the first sort of thing you'd say to someone going, okay, you've got diagnosis, let's sit down and talk this through with you?
The first thing is you need to not be alone. Now, yes, I feel part of that role, but it's more important that at your first couple of appointments where they're giving you all the often news, you need somebody there with you. Mm-hmm. Because seconds, you're told you had cancer, your brain went. And so you need that other person there to ask the questions, take the notes, do all of those things that your brain can't do. When we go to the doctor and we're told we have the flu, we go home and we're like, when was I supposed to say that?
Yeah.
And when somebody is saying, now if you do this, there's 10% chance. No. And so it's build that tribe of people around you. And hopefully you already study that. Mm. And I know that there are some people who don't. I've gone to doctor's appointments with casual acquaintances because they had no one else to go. But have somebody that can go with you. If you have to go along, even if not, record your doctor's appointments. They might fuss at that. I can't. Somebody tells me I can't record my doctor's appointment. No, I can want them. But if they were to tell me that by that, there's a bigger problem.
Yeah,
because they just want us to have this information in the best possible way.
Absolutely. Do you have any recommendations for somebody who feels like there's no one they can turn to other than recording? How do you start that conversation with someone?
Your doctor's offices in many cases actually have advocates, especially if they're a bigger they call them different things. For some, it's a social worker, all sorts of things. Or at least have gone in with everything written down, so you're referring to your list and then you might want to record it. My husband went with me to my first couple of appointments. He doesn't go anymore. I don't need him to go. Spaces, if I were to say that. But yeah, you are in charge. And I think that's the thing to really remember. Not the doctors who are in charge. It's nobody else. You are in charge.
Yeah, I think I don't know about you, with doctors, I always have, excuse me, a certain amount of faith in what they're telling me is the right thing. They're
A million hours of school.
exactly. But I think it's one thing I've learned is, and this is the British part of me probably going, I don't like to be a problem. Like I do like,
Oh, yes, close the upper lip.
yeah, absolutely. Then come with me and everything does everything. But there have been times in my past where I have endured like large amounts of pain. Turned out it was, a serious problem. But I didn't want to complain too much.
Right.
I don't know if it's supposed to be British. I feel it's not just British people.
It's universal. And I think in many cases, men don't want to admit it. Women don't want to, because we're so busy. Well, we can't tell anybody we're sick, right? And then I said, there's that. It kind of goes along that fear of that white coat. They're the really smart people. How dare we question them?
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time when my dad went to a doctor, and he would have been late 80s when he did this. And the doctor was actually a personal friend. And Dad had two things he was going in for. Goes off, he comes back. And I said, well, what did Mike say? And he said, oh, such and such. I said, well, what about the other thing? We didn't talk about it. But what do you mean you didn't talk about it? And he said, well, he should have known. I'm like, oh, Mike doesn't bite minds. And so I go, he's coming back. But, our doctors, our medical care providers, they're people too, and they can't read minds. I tell people, one of the worst things is the word, Philippa, how are you doing today? I'm fine. Right? And covers thing from, I'm about to die to, I'm really, really good.
Yeah.
So be honest with them. I tell mine I'm E.T. Dory. And it's really funny. The last time I was thinking about them said, no, don't say that that's not a problem.
Okay.
But yeah, we're not, it's okay. Barista at Starbucks that you're fine. And that you also need to be honest with your caregivers, your family, your friends. If you're not fine, don't tell them that you're fine.
One of the things that I've learned is it's far easier to advocate for others than it is for yourself.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And so I try to, if it's myself, I try to imagine that I'm doing it for somebody else.
Right.
To give me that
love
bit of an edge. make a bit of a stand about something's not okay. But it is hard. And like you're totally right. I mean, fine is the answer for nearly everything. But, culturally, we're like, we just don't want to complain, don't want to make a fuss. But actually, when it comes to your health and to seek talk with professionals, not being fine and elaborating on how you're not fine is probably a very good thing to do.
Like the little basal cell carcinoma. It was really funny. I was at my doctor, and it was my primary care doc. And, she and I were chatting. And she finally said, well, is there anything else? And I said, I got this thing on my arm that won't heal. And I'd had it for probably 6 months. So it was really, it was not very serious. So, being an wound, it was tiny. But, no, don't ignore those things. Don't think how many times I'm going to hear now, I'm getting older. It's just because we're getting older.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's just funny. I was told that I got diagnosed with B12 deficiency in my mid-30s out of nowhere. The doctor says to me, after a certain age, we all have everything. Well, sorry, we'll have something. And I was like, I'm mid-30s. I feel like this isn't the age to be telling me that. But actually, as you say, we understand so much more about medicine, about our bodies, about what we can do. And we see these people, these super aging, there's a special name for them, aren't there? People who live into their 70s, 80s, 90s, super fit, still doing stuff. Literally, we don't cattle.
Well, let's sing.
Yeah. Okay, then. But yeah, we don't have to put up with this stuff. We shouldn't have to. So
keep your body. Pain is your body saying, hello, it's wrong. It could be that you did too much garden over the weekend, but it might also be something that's more serious. It's scary, but we have to not be scared. because the sooner we catch whatever it is, the better it is and easier it is to treat.
Yeah. And how do you tie in your happiness coaching then into all of this? I mean, how does that differentiate things?
Laugh, right? We need to laugh. There's been many medical studies, by places like Mayo Clinic, those real reputable, Johns Hopkins, Mayo, all of those, that have shown that laughing is very beneficial to you. Oxytocin is released. I had to get the right word. It helps with our blood pressure, all sorts of things. So, watch TV that's going to make you laugh. What? Don't watch the icky, gloomy, doomy thing. No, watch something that's going to make you laugh. I'll say, a pseudonym right now. Now, I know when I can use it when I have to be serious. So, when they ask me, what's your name? I tell them, my name is Anna.
Lovely.
And I have no idea where they came from. But they've decided in a treatment room that I'm ISS, Anastasia Beaverhausen. So you will appreciate this. I must do the Queen way.
Wonderful. And you do it so well. For those who can't, you do it listening.
The fingers together, whole arm, right?
You will go far with that wave.
Yeah, so I'm Princess Anastasia Beaverhausen.
I love that. I feel like I need to give myself a new name now. I'll work on that one.
Sure, we'll come up with one.
Yeah, excellent. So with my work as a therapist, one thing I've made people do a couple of times is fake laughing until they laugh properly. And it just way out. Yeah, and it's amazing. And I think partly people end up laughing because they feel like idiots as well. Take yourself off to a private place. Just start fake laughing, and eventually it turns into real laughter. And it just kind of breaks the mold, doesn't it, on when you're stuck in that place. And again, laughing is an amazing therapeutic tool in its own right. So I love that's what you do.
The weird thing is it lowers our blood pressure. You think it would raise and limit yourself on, and it actually lowers our blood. Maybe it's because it's been a release. I don't know.
Yeah, love it. And the other thing I learned during the pandemic, so I don't watch horror films anyway. Never have no interest. And I don't mind, some thrillers and some psychological stuff. But during the pandemic, just before the pandemic started, my husband and I were watching Chernobyl, which is, I don't know if you guys have it over there, but it was obviously about Chernobyl. And then we were also watching War of the Worlds, the TV series that came out. Goodness me, we had to stop because they were both too depressing and kind of were an eerie reflection of what was going on in the pandemic world. And I haven't gone back to them since because it was such a depressing thing. And I very, very rarely now, since the pandemic, done anything depressing, in all honesty. I don't mind action, I don't mind thriller, I don't mind, comedy, but I just don't do depressing. And it's interesting how much even what you consume really does affect you in the nature, the tone of what you're watching.
And let's be honest, sometimes the news is like that, right? It's pretty well publicized going on here in the United States. But mother's a huge Fox News fan, right? And then she loved it, so she loved her candidate that went along with. Rick just didn't talk about it, but he would watch Fox News 24 hours a day. And in any type of news channels like that, they're just running the same stories over and over because there's not enough. And she was getting grumpier and crankier. And on her own, she figured it out. And so she started limiting herself to 3 hours of words a day. And then there was one program she liked, but see what the world had later obtained. Then she'd watch her local news at noon, and then she'd watch a Meet One program. And the rest of the time, she'd have a Hallmark channel on.
Lovely.
We have to move. There's drama. Or a breakup. Boy and girl get together.
Yeah. Everyone lives happy ever after.
Yes. And you can watch totally different movies, and it's all the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing how her personality changed. Just because she was listening positive. And of course, that's why it's so important for many people to listen to music, right? Get that positive onto your life, as I was telling you.
And I try to stay away from politics, but I think regardless of what news channel you watch, if you watch any news channel for 24/7, you're going to have the same kind of negative I mean, what I would love is a new channel full of people like rescuing puppies and kittens and like, swimming with otters, capybara lakes.
I become quite a fan of several of the British mysteries. And some things like Murder She Wrote or
Yeah, yeah, I love Murder She Wrote.
but nobody yells. There's no bloody lickly.
No,
And they have nice soothing tones.
completely.
And they're roasting people.
I do question though the residents of both Cabot Cove and Midsummer as to why they're still living in as they say.
Their kids, like anybody left in Midsummer, they're all dead. Yeah, poor Jessica and the various police officers in Midsummer. No,
Yeah, it's yeah. That's how we let it happen. So no, definitely, I love that. If people want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
well, thank you. And this has been so much fun. Our website is cryingnottoDie.live, IVE, because we're living our life, right? And on there, you will find lots of information. Information is there, the cancer coaching. We also have a private Facebook group, open anybody, private, because we don't want the people who are going to cure us. They let a private drink that's going to cure you. And be encouraged by anybody to join the Facebook group. Even if cancer has never touched your life, because we post lots of inspirational things, funny things. But there's one of the members once a week at least. She posts now. It's very clean humor, really funny thing. So we encourage people to do that. But I
suppose that's in the show notes. But I mean, it's been a lot of fun. So like we could just chat about our mums and TV quite well.
We could.
But no one else might enjoy that much as we do. I don't know. It's their loss. Thank you ever so much for taking the time. It's been wonderful. And I wish you all well. Everything. I look forward to seeing you do more and more with your stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.